Have you ever felt someone subtly steering your choices without raising their voice? Have you ever agreed to something and later wondered, wait, was that really my decision? Why does it feel good to influence someone? Why does it sometimes feel even better to control them? And here is the uncomfortable truth. The desire to control is not limited to dictators, abusers, or narcissists. It exists quietly in ordinary people, in relationships, in workplaces, in friendships, in families. The real question is not who controls. The real question is, why does control feel rewarding in the first place? Today, we are going deep into the psychology, neuroscience, and evolutionary roots behind why people sometimes secretly enjoy controlling others. And by the end of this video, you may start noticing subtle patterns you never saw before. Control and the brain's reward system. Let's begin with the brain. Research on power and social dominance suggests that experiences of influence can activate reward-related neural circuits, particularly those involving dopamine. Neuroscientist Ian Robertson, in his book The Winner Effect, explains that gaining status or power can increase dopamine activity, which enhances motivation and confidence. However, this does not mean control equals addiction in a simplistic sense. It means the brain tends to reward experiences that signal increased status or success. In evolutionary terms, higher status historically meant better access to resources, protection, and mating opportunities. Dominance had survival value. So when someone feels they are shaping outcomes, influencing decisions, guiding behavior, setting the direction, the brain may interpret that as a successful social maneuver. And success feels good, not because someone is evil, but because the brain is wired to respond positively to perceived social advantage. Control, at its core, can feel like competence, and competence is deeply rewarding. The illusion of control and anxiety regulation. Now here is something critical. Not all control-seeking behavior comes from arrogance. Sometimes it comes from anxiety. Psychologist Ellen Langer's research on the illusion of control demonstrated that humans strongly prefer situations where they feel agency, even when that control is objectively limited. Uncertainty increases stress. Predictability reduces it. When life feels chaotic, people often try to tighten control over smaller environments. A partner, a schedule, a child, a project, a social circle. Control can temporarily reduce internal anxiety. It creates a sense of order. This is especially true for individuals with high intolerance of uncertainty, a trait studied extensively in anxiety research. So sometimes, controlling behavior is less about power and more about fear. It is a strategy, often unconscious, to calm internal instability. But here is the danger. If someone repeatedly uses control as their primary coping mechanism, they may start relying on dominance to regulate their emotions. And that is when patterns become rigid. Power and empathy. What research actually says. There is a popular claim that power shuts off empathy. That statement is too simplistic. What research actually shows is more nuanced. Studies by Dacher Keltner and colleagues suggest that people in positions of power may become less attentive to others' emotional cues under certain conditions. One reason is attentional shift. When individuals feel powerful, they often focus more on goals and less on social monitoring. This can reduce perspective-taking in specific contexts. However, power does not automatically erase empathy. Context matters. Personality matters. Values matter. Power amplifies tendencies. If someone already values cooperation, power may enhance leadership. If someone prioritizes dominance, power may enhance control. So the question is not whether power destroys empathy. The question is, what does power amplify inside you? The Dark Triad, without overgeneralizing. In 2002, psychologists Delroy Paulus and Kevin Williams introduced the concept of the Dark Triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. Individuals high in Machiavellianism tend to engage in strategic manipulation and calculated social control. Research shows they often prioritize long-term personal gain over relational harmony. Narcissism is linked to a strong need for admiration and validation. Controlling interactions can help maintain a desired self-image. Psychopathy involves low empathy and impulsivity, which can reduce the emotional barriers to exploitation. But here is the key correction. Most people are not clinical narcissists or psychopaths. Dark traits exist on a spectrum under stress, competition, or insecurity. Even psychologically healthy individuals may display controlling tendencies. Enjoying influence does not automatically equal having a personality disorder. It becomes problematic when autonomy is consistently ignored. Attachment theory and early environment. Attachment theory, first developed by John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth, shows that early relational patterns shape adult relationship dynamics. Individuals with anxious attachment may attempt to control partners to reduce fear of abandonment. Individuals with avoidant attachment may control emotional distance to avoid vulnerability. In both cases, control can serve as self-protection. If a child grows up in unpredictable or inconsistent environments, they may learn that control equals safety. Later in life, they may attempt to recreate stability by managing people and situations tightly. This is not conscious malice. It is learned regulation, but it can still damage relationships because safety built on control is fragile. Social dominance and cultural reinforcement. Social dominance theory, developed by Jim Sedanius and Felicia Prado, suggests that societies naturally form hierarchies. Some individuals are more comfortable with inequality and structured power differences. In competitive environments, corporate spaces, politics, online influence culture, dominance behaviors are often rewarded. The modern digital world amplifies visibility of influence, follower counts, engagement metrics, public validation. Attention itself becomes currency, and controlling attention becomes a form of power. When culture rewards dominance, some individuals internalize control as success. When control becomes harmful, control crosses into harm when it consistently removes another person's autonomy. Psychologist Evan Stark's work on coercive control describes patterns where domination occurs without physical violence. The tactics are subtle: isolation, monitoring, undermining confidence, creating dependency. What makes coercive control dangerous is gradual erosion. It rarely starts extreme. It builds slowly. And the person exerting control often rationalizes their behavior. I'm protecting you. I know what's best. I'm just helping. Intent does not erase impact. Enjoyment of control becomes destructive when it overrides respect. The honest reflection. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most humans enjoy influence. Influence signals competence, relevance, impact. If you have ever felt proud when someone took your advice, you have experienced the positive side of influence. The difference between healthy influence and toxic control is consent and autonomy. Healthy influence allows choice. Toxic control restricts it. Control feels good because it reduces uncertainty, increases status signals, activates reward pathways, and creates predictability. But sustainable relationships require something stronger than control. They require mutual agency. So why do people secretly enjoy controlling others? Because control can feel like safety. Because influence can feel like validation. Because dominance can feel like certainty in an uncertain world. But real strength is not measured by how tightly you hold someone. It is measured by how secure you feel without holding them at all. The most powerful people are not those who control others. They are those who can influence without removing freedom. If this made you rethink human behavior, subscribe to MindCraft Lab, because the mind does not wage obvious wars. It wages quiet ones. And here we learn how to see them clearly.